Well, on another topic that you've been heavily involved in on firedoglake.com, I'm talking with Christy Hardin Smith. You've been working with some other Democrats in Congress to try to close down Gitmo. And can you tell us a little bit about your progress with that, what your hopes and aspirations are, and do you see any progress on that front?
I had an interview with Senator Tom Harkin from Iowa earlier in the week this week, talking about legislation that he and Senator Dianne Feinstein and Sheldon Whitehouse and Pat Leahy and a number of Democrats in the Senate are pushing forward. What they're asking for is that, Gitmo be closed down. Once the legislation is passed, there would have to be a move toward that being done within 120 days, that the people who are being held there's some 375, give or take, depending on some of the prisoners that haven't been, reported because they were held at black ops sites prior to being transferred there. So, we don't have an absolute number, but it's around 375 people that are still being held there, a lot of whom still have not been charged, even though they've been held for, 5-6 years now. The argument, and this is something as an attorney that I just find so appalling, is that, we're holding these people without charging them. We have not afforded them a fair trial. They, had to fight to just get access to attorneys, and once they were given access to those attorneys, it really has been very much a Kafkaesque process for them, because they're not told what all of the charges are against them. They have to defend against these charges, but they're not given all of the evidence that's being used to charge them when they are charged. They aren't told who the names of the people were who gave the evidence to the government, but they have to completely rebut all of that because the burden is on the defendant in order to prove their innocence. Which, when you think about that, it's really something out of a Philip K. Dick novel. You don't think of this as the way the American system of justice is supposed to work, and yet that's exactly what we're doing. And this, what we've been doing in Guantanamo has really tarnished the U.S. reputation in terms of civil liberties and in terms of human rights, something that we have been on the forefront of, since before World War II. And, you hear from a lot of attorneys in the military talking about how dangerous this is for our military because, one of our forces gets picked up by an enemy, state, and they get held the same way we're holding people in Gitmo, in a hole where they're not charged, and they get held indefinitely, and they're not given access to counsel, and they're not able to contact their families or to let their government know that they're being held. They just disappear. If that happened to an American soldier, we would be screaming bloody murder about it. But, we're doing that, and and also pointing a finger at other countries around the world for doing the same thing at the same time. And the hypocrisy of that is just really both appalling and very damaging to the U.S. reputation, and it needs to stop.
Do you have any sense why there are so many people who are being imprisoned indefinitely without having charges against them? Is there a practical reason for them to be doing this, or does it speak to perhaps the weakness of evidence they might have, and they're unsure what to do with how to handle the mistakes they have made?
A number of the people who are being held, I've heard from attorneys who've worked on those cases, and a number of the people who are being held, they think are being held based on testimony that was gained from confessions and other information that was brought out by torture or other methods that would not allow that to be used in court.
Not allowed to be used in court?
Because it's not reliable. Yeah, and I mean, you're being tortured, you're going to be willing to say anything. It's been one of those methods that's been discredited time and time again, and yet that's exactly, what we've been doing to get information. And, it can't be used in a court of law, and they know it. So they're trying to fudge the boundaries, not just to keep those people in prison so that they don't have to admit that they were doing this conduct, but also because they don't have anything else to hold them on. And a lot of the folks, a large number of them that are being held in Guantanamo were basically sold to the U.S. military, and a lot of them have been found to be completely innocent of any charges. We held them for years based on, some tribal rivalry that then had, them sold to the military to get them out of the way.
So what are the prospects in Congress now? So there is a bill to close down Gitmo and establish a process for dealing with those who are currently there. Is there any chance that that's going to garner majority support in Congress at this point?
At this point, what they've done is, I think instead of doing a standalone bill, what they're hoping to do is to transfer that as an amendment to the next DOD appropriations bill. And they've gotten a lot more support, but the more phone calls members of Congress, and especially those in the Senate, get, if the listeners out there are, they have a senator who's on the Armed Services Committee, for example, giving those senators a call and letting them know that they should support the Senate bill dealing with closing Gitmo down would be a great idea. And the information on that was up on an interview that I did with Senator Hardin on Tuesday on Fire Dog Lake, so you can find all the information on the bill there.
And is there a petition effort happening as well?
There is, and the petition is really geared toward the next U.S. Attorney General nominee, whoever that's going to be.
I'm sure it'll be fantastic.
A lot of names floated out. Yeah, I'm not sure that we're even going to get another AG nominee, frankly. But if we do, requiring that person to, say outright that they support closing down Guantanamo, because the practice is really anathema to what the rule of law ought to be.
Well, thank you so much, Christy Hardin-Smith from FireDogLake.com. You've been done fantastic work on the blog on these important constitutional and legal issues. You've done great work to get progressive candidates into office, and all I can say is keep up the good work.
Thanks, Bill. You too.
Thank you. This has been the Liberal Oasis radio show. I'm your host, Bill Scher. You could miss any part of this broadcast. Check it out on LiberalOasis.com. We have podcasts and we have netcasts. Please come back next week, Saturday at 10 a.m. every week for the Liberal Oasis radio show on WHMP News, Information, and the Arts.